Life is too precious to end early, and everything we do is finite. Everything we do could be our first and last times doing something. And I think that it's important to remember throughout our lives, and that it's important to remember that everything is important. Everyone is important. Everyone has good and bad, and we should always look for the good. So you probably read the thumbnail and title. You only get one life. So like that's why I'm playing Minecraft Hardcore, just to kind of have like a little analogy about like just like in Minecraft Hardcore, we only have like one life. So like I haven't really made a video like this before, and especially not on this channel. It's only my second video ever, and so I kind of want to just like talk about how like life is like precious. Like I don't know if you can think back, but just like think back and like think about all the things that have happened in your life and like the first and last times you ever done things. So you don't even know those times are happening; they just kind of happen. Like like obviously like with the first time you do something, it's pretty memorable. But the last time may not be, like you don't really know the last time you'll do something. And you may not even remember it. Like just like something you used to enjoy, and you may not be able to remember the last time you did it. And something kind of like memorable in a lot of people's lives, I feel like, especially if you're younger, it's just your first day at school, like in any grade. I feel like that's a part of life that we all kind of remember for different reasons. And I feel like life can kind of be just like the first day of school. Like on the first day of school, you kind of like don't want to be there. Maybe you don't know anybody. You're getting to know your teacher, your classmates. Maybe you're sitting there alone. And you're thinking about how like the rest of the year is going to be. And if it's going to be just like that day. And I've experienced many different first days. And I've experienced ones where I already had friends, where I didn't have friends, where I was at a new school. And throughout all of them, I feel like the best first days were the first days where I was focused on what was the best for me on that day and what would be best for my year instead of how the other people were going to think of me. But the truth is about life, an experience for one person, the exact same experience may be very different for someone else. Some people on the first day, they have a lot of friends. They already know people. They already know how the year is going to go. Maybe they've been at that school their whole life. But for other people, that's their first year at the school. Maybe they don't have any friends. Maybe that's you. It's your first year out of school. Maybe it's not your first year out of school and you still don't know anybody. You don't have friends. And an experience for the same exact experience for some people can be completely different for someone else. And I know like probably everyone has kind of heard this before, but like stop caring what other people think, because like at the end of the day, it's your life. And I don't mean that in a sense, don't listen to other people if they're trying to help you improve, but I mean at the end of the day, it's your life, and caring too much about what people think or how they act or how they want you to act will just hold you behind, because at the end of the day, every choice that you make is going to affect you and not them. And it's always going to affect you more than it'll affect them. Which I think is really important to remember, that like no matter like what decisions you make or you make because of other people, it's only affecting you. And so if you make a decision that might hurt yourself, you're only doing that because of something someone else did to you. And it's your life and it's not their life. And so they shouldn't be able to have power over the choices that you make or make you make choices, because at the end of the day, it's going to affect you more than it'll affect them. And every single person watching this video is going through different things. I'm not really sure. I can't be sure of what everyone's going through, but what I can be sure is everyone has a purpose, and everyone's purpose is different. Like everyone's not going to have the same goal. Everyone's not going to be doing the same thing. Everyone goes their own separate ways, and everyone does their own things. And sometimes that's just how life is. And finding something you're passionate about, because, not everyone has a bunch of friends or a bunch of people they can be around, and maybe that's you. And, it's not always amazing being alone, but sometimes being alone is where the most improvement and positive change in your life comes from, because if you can be confident and happy with yourself, you'll be confident and happy no matter who's around you. And sometimes that just starts by finding something you're passionate about. And something that I'm passionate about is YouTube, and I may not be super good at it, you know, like this is only my second video. It may not do good either, but at the end of the day, I try, and I want to improve, and I want to do good, but, you know, I have no guarantee to know if it'll work, and you don't ever try your goal, or to get to your goal, you never know what will happen. Because, you know, my belief is that, like, everyone can do any goal that they want to do, but a lot of times I feel like people have it in their mind that it's too difficult, or other people make them believe they can't do it. And, you know, I feel like part of that could be true. Like, sometimes there are things that you just can't do, and you have to work around that and try and find something new. But I feel like also part of it is that if you're open to change, then you can be open to what you want to do. Like, for example, YouTube, you know, I've been trying to do it for a long time. This isn't my first channel, and, you know, I'm open to changing what I post because, you know, I'm not going to be the same person I was a few years ago. And I'm open to changing stuff with my videos and learning that maybe they're not great. And so if you can apply that to your life, like, hey, I know I'm not perfect, but, and this goal may not be perfect either, but this is something I'm passionate about, and here are the ways I can change it to make it work. Because I feel like being happy with yourself and passionate about what you're doing in life really changes your life, because you don't have to rely on anyone else or anything, just on yourself. And when you find that reliance on yourself in your life, then you can start branching out and helping other people, or working with other people, or figuring out things with other people that you wouldn't normally be able to do because you weren't even happy with yourself. And sometimes that's difficult, not being happy and trying to find the motivation to do things that are difficult, that take time. But sometimes it just starts by one step, because if you don't try, if you don't take it a step, then you'll never go forward. And, you know, sometimes it's okay to pause and take a break. You know, like, in a race, they don't just run and run forever. They run and they'll slow down, maybe speed up. Maybe they eat a bunch before the race. They take a break after the race. You know, they don't continuously run. And it's also like sometimes you'll just be more tired than other days. And if one day you only have 20%, but you get that whole 20%, then you gave 100%. And over the past few months, I've realized that the happiest that I've been is when I stopped caring about what other people thought, and I lived for myself. And I don't mean that you stop caring about other people, but I mean you just stop caring what they think. And for me to do that, it wasn't easy, and it probably won't be easy for you or anyone, but I had to first just find confidence in myself and stop looking for confidence in other people. And when I started doing that, I just noticed that no matter what I did, I was able to be happy with the results, because if I knew that it was better than what I did before, then it was good enough. For example, with YouTube, you know, I've tried to do that for a few years, and it hasn't always worked. But when I stopped caring about what other people thought, like, oh, what if they saw my video and they're like, oh, this is really bad, what if this, or what if that, I just learned that it doesn't matter what they think, because at the end of the day, someone's always going to not like you, or not like what you're doing. So if you're going to care about what people think, then you're always going to have to care what people think. And if you don't want people to judge you, someone's going to always judge you, so you're never going to be able to do anything. And so I learned that for me to do what I want and do the things that I wanted, I had to just stop caring about what other people would think and just do what I thought was best and improve on my own. And so if I saw improvement, if I could see the improvement in myself and see the improvement in my videos, then I knew that was good enough, because I'm not going to be perfect. Like, another thing is, you don't want to start out wanting to be perfect, because you're not going to be perfect. You know, your first YouTube video isn't going to be your best YouTube video. It isn't going to be perfect. But if you just start out with that first thing that you have and improve from there, it'll slowly get better. But it won't get better if you don't start. And it definitely won't get better if you end it before it starts. before it gets to continue, and you get to experience more things. Experience things that you might love, experience things you maybe haven't experienced before. Because I don't know y'all's lives, and I don't know what you've experienced before, what you've done before. But there's plenty of things that, there's thousands, there's millions of things you haven't done before that I'm sure you would miss if you weren't able to do again. And you know what I've also learned is I feel like the best part of life is that it comes to an end. The best things in life are the things that aren't forever, because it means that there's an end to it. Like, it doesn't, we don't have forever to do everything, and that there's a time limit. Like I'm sure there's many times in your life that you've had a time limit on something. If you play video games, there's many video games like Siege and other games that have time limits. And for example, with Siege, I don't know if y'all have played that Rainbow Six Siege, but it's basically a 5v5 game mode where you have to defuse a bomb, and there's a time limit that you have. I think it's like 5 minutes. So if there wasn't a time limit, then you would be there, and one team would just be able to camp, and eventually they would either want all die, or they could just camp until the other team left the game and win. And so sometimes in life, the fact that there's a time limit, that we don't have forever to do everything, makes it a little bit better. Because I feel like if we were here for thousands and thousands of years, at some point we wouldn't have anything more to do. But because we don't have forever, we have many more things to do, and those things are so finite. We don't have forever to do them. And so the things that are really important and precious and that we really care about and are passionate about, we don't have forever to do. And we don't want to take time away from that when we already have such a little. We want to have as much of that time that we could possibly have, and keep whatever is precious and we're passionate about. And you know, sometimes it is difficult to find what you're passionate about, because you know, there was a while where I just didn't know. There's only so much you can do sometimes, and you sometimes don't have the resources to do those things. But what I learned was that in those times where it's difficult to do many things, and maybe even you're alone, that's where the best idea is, and that's where the most improvement can come from, because you have to find what you want and the improvement in yourself. And you know, sometimes that means going and finding other people. Sometimes that improvement doesn't necessarily have to be just self-reflection and just in yourself, but it can be outside, and it can be with other people, and that improvement on your own could be going and finding other people. Because I don't know what everyone, I don't know who's going to watch this. It could be just one person, it could be just me. But what I've learned is that I'm happy with even if it's just me, because at the end of the day, if this is my passion, and since it's something that makes me happy, it doesn't matter if it does good or not, because at the end of the day, you know, like for me, I want YouTube to be a career, but if it's not, and I don't make money for it, I think I would still do it no matter what. So like right now, even if my video got 0 views, I might be a little sad, but I would keep going because it's something I'm passionate about. And so I think you could apply that to anything you're passionate about. Like, you know, there's many things you'd be passionate about. Maybe you're passionate about being a doctor. You know, maybe you fail a test, and so maybe you can't become a doctor at that moment, but maybe you can do it later. You know, maybe that test that you failed makes you decide you don't want to be a doctor, but you still want to do something in that field. Maybe if that test makes you realize that's what you're not actually passionate about, and you actually want to do something else. Because I feel like a lot of people, when you ask them what they want to do as a career, something they're passionate about, they don't always tell you the truth. They tell you something that more people are doing, something that seems realistic. But in my eyes, I feel like every dream is realistic. It's just a lot of us have been taught to believe that our dreams are unrealistic. As little kids, you know, a lot of people might say they want to be a YouTuber. They might say they want to be a streamer, an astronaut, you know, a lawyer, a doctor. And some of them will go and become those things, but Some of them will decide they want to do something else. And some of them will give up. Some of them will not even try. But I think if it's something you're passionate about, something that you want to do, I think you should always try, because, you know, in basketball terms, if you never shoot a shot, you'll never make it. You know, in Minecraft, since y'all are watching a Minecraft video, you'll never beat the Ender Dragon if you never get to the end. And I think, like, I've kind of learned a lot from that, you know, we don't have forever to do everything. If you don't try something, you'll never do it. If you don't try it, it'll never be successful. And sometimes that's all it takes, is just trying. Because, you know, it may be something you're passionate about. And you may try it and you're like, dang, I actually don't really like this. And so instead of thinking all your life, well, what if? Now you know. At the end of the day, at least it... Or maybe it just doesn't work out. Maybe you'd love to do it, but for whatever reason, you just can't. And I don't mean like you give up. Maybe you want to be an NBA player. Maybe you want to play a sport. And somehow you get a bad injury and you can't play no more. And so, you know, now you look back and at least you know. And you don't have to think what if. And you look back, and if you're confident in yourself, you're confident in something new that you're passionate about, you can look back and be like, wow, this beautiful new thing would have never happened if I never got injured. And maybe you'll look back and be like, what if I never got injured and I could still play? And I think that's where what I was talking about earlier, being confident in yourself, always being confident in yourself by yourself. Because that way you don't have to rely on yourself. I mean, you don't have to rely on other people or other things. Because that doesn't just apply to finding confidence in people, but other things. Because then once that person or once that thing is taken away, now you're not confident anymore. But if you find confidence in yourself, you're going to always be confident in yourself. And if you can find confidence in your ability and your knowledge, no one will be able to take that away from you. No one can take away what's in your mind. And so if you are confident in what you're able to do, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to do anything except just be you and have your goals and continue on your goals. Because at the end of the day, people are always going to try and put you down, especially if you're doing something that they want to do, but they didn't and they gave up on. Maybe they didn't even give up. Maybe they never even tried. They're not going to like that. They're not going to like that they see you succeed. Especially if it's something they want to do. And so they might hate on you. You know, there's a lot of hate on the internet. You see a lot of people that get hated on, and maybe it's for really small things. I feel like there is a lot of hate in the world. And, you know, it sucks, but it's just a part of the world. And to deal with that, you just got to be confident in yourself. And know, like, to an extent, maybe sometimes what people say that's mean, maybe it's true. Because sometimes the truth does hurt. But a lot of times, if you're confident in yourself and you know it's not true, then that's when you can improve the most. And, you know, that doesn't mean you can't have people who help you, because, you know, sometimes in that moment, when you're self-reflecting, maybe you get a little bit of hate. Maybe they say something about your shoes. You know, they don't like your shoes. Well, if you like your shoes, then it doesn't matter what they think. But sometimes, you know, what I noticed is sometimes in my life, I did things for other people. You know, maybe the way I cut my hair, the way I dressed. I was dressing for other people to make myself look good. And sometimes, you know, I don't think that's necessarily bad. But what I learned is in those scenarios, if I am doing something for other people, then I have to be confident in the way I'm doing it. Because I'm only going to be confident when other people like it. So if I'm going to do it for other people, then I have to be confident in the way I do it, if that makes sense. It may not make sense. So, for example, maybe my clothes. You know, not everyone's going to like the way I dress. You know, everyone has different styles. But what I learned was that the reason I would wear clothes the way I did, or the reason I would do my hair the way I did, was because I wanted people to think it looked good. I don't care at the end of the day how my hair is or how my clothes are. So I'm confident in the fact that I think people will think it looks good. And then if they don't, well, I'm confident that everyone else does, right? And so sometimes you can find confidence in the fact that some people will hate on things and some people won't. And I feel like you can find confidence in anything. And I feel like at the end of the day, if you find confidence in what you're passionate about, what you want to do, and you realize that you are precious and that you don't have a lot of time, but all you have is time. Time will never leave you until the day you die. And you have all the time in the world to do what you want to do. But the time that you have is so precious, and every single moment should be used and not wasted. And sometimes that doesn't mean you can't sit down and relax sometimes, because that's not a waste of time. That's getting your energy back. That's relaxing. And maybe that's just what you want to do. We're not always going to be doing stuff. We're not always going to have a bunch of energy. We're not always going to be able to be happy. No one's perfect, and we're all going to have ups and downs. And so, what I've learned is just that if you can be happy with yourself and what you're doing, you'll be happy in life, because you'll always have yourself, but you may not always have other people and other things. But why would you listen to me? I'm just some random guy on YouTube.